We're finally here at the very end, the final 5. I hope you've all been following from the very beginning. If not, no need to feel any guilt, as you can always backtrack through the playlist and watch through them all from the very beginning. So, without any further ado, let the final countdown commence.
5.
Baccano, a story created by the same guy that did Durara. Baccano, like Durara, starts with his vivid, surreal-like start, which does nothing but confuse and intrigue the viewer to carry on forwards. I often find myself struggling on deciding what I enjoyed more, the characters or the story. To be honest, I don't really think that matters much, as the characters and stories start off by fixating on the individual and then latches onto other characters' stories throughout this train ride on the flying pussyfoot. The supernatural element in Baccano isn't particularly intriguing in my opinion, but it did open up certain scars, like seeing a kid getting... You know what, I won't spoil that. Anyway, as an overall, Baccano has a huge cast of characters that you are bound to find likable, with most people turning towards the best duo, Isaac and Lily. The story at first won't make sense, but becomes much clearer later on. Trust me, you'll love Baccano. Kokoro Connect was one of the few animes I had dropped way back in the past. I revisited the show, dropped it, thinking it was good, and then somehow I just ended up watching the whole thing through a different perspective. Kokoro Connect is perhaps one of the most interesting and original shows that differentiates itself from most other supernatural anime, with its school slice of life drama, romance blending in with this particular supernatural show that you don't often get with supernatural series. If you are indeed a sucker for heavily character-driven stories, then Kokoro Connect is perhaps one of the best series to do just that. The story does just as good as the characters, as we have Heartseed, the main enemy who is causing all these body swapping complications, which also open up our main characters to find out about things they didn't know about the other. This of course opens up a lot more drama, confrontations and character backstories, as our characters at face value don't necessarily follow to their traditional archetypes and have vast amounts of developments and relatable personalities with the audience to identify themselves with. And it really gets you thinking about yourself when you identify yourself close to one of the main 5 casts. The only problem for me personally, as mentioned with my previous attempts in watching it, is that you have to pay attention to what happens right at the start to really cling on to what's going on and to keep track of who is who. Thankfully, you can also watch this dubbed in English, making it all the more easy to keep track of who switched with who and who that person is. Overall, Kokoro Connect is one of those school anime that revitalizes the genre as a whole, with an interesting twist and relatable themes to reel you in. Definitely watch Kokoro Connect and get back to me on what you think if you watch it, or if you have already watched it.
3.
Daughters of Neversign was one of those shows that I hadn't anticipated for anything other than that Yuri genre, which didn't really faze me as I thought it would have been light, like with how Akuma no Riddle was. Oh dear, how wrong was I? This anime is most definitely one for the adults, given the depth, concept, mediocrity, gore, and of course the nudity / Yuri. The story may seem short at just 6 episodes, but the show more than makes up for it with a 45-minute duration, quite like Hellsing Ultimate. The story revolves around Rin Asogi and her partner Mimi, an immortal private detective with a habit of always drinking vodka over water, as you learn episode by episode that water means vodka in Russian. But what does that mean if you are immortal, right? You can drink to your heart's content without any concern. What I particularly adore about her immortality is that other than not aging at all, she can get pierced, shot, blown up and beaten to a bloody pulp. Another thing I liked with how the story was executed was the large time skips whilst everything changed, such as the characters, landscape and technology. Rin and Mimi remained the same, as if time had stood still for them and for us as well, whilst having time changing from their surroundings. Of course, I can imagine some of you may be questioning, won't this get stale? Well, that's where the overarching story comes into place, with this guy, Apos, as the main enemy throughout the whole series. So I won't spoil anything further than this, but honestly do check it out if you are looking for a sophisticated anime with its depth and gore. And for the love of God, people that believe this show is just senseless Yuri sex, then actually pay attention to why the characters are putting themselves in that situation. Pay attention to the context.
2.
Mushishi for sure was one of the most relaxing anime series I've ever seen. Even when I had a bad day, the show made me forget everything that happened and immersed me into the bittersweet stories that feel like a recollection of a main guy Ginko's adventures as a Mushishi. So now, what is Mushishi? Well, to answer that, I got to explain what Mushi are, which is quite difficult to actually categorize as there's nothing really like it in comparison. They are simply just there in this world that simply exists with no end goal, causing all sorts of good and bad, so it's quite unpredictable how these Mushi will behave and what shape and form they'll manifest into, from mimicking plants, diseases, people, and even phenomena like rainbows itself. This is where the Mushishi come in, and they simply research the Mushi to gain an understanding on how to deal with them, varying on the circumstances. The Mushi are a very difficult entity to really explain, as you got to watch the show yourself and come up with your own explanation, as the Mushishi also question their purpose and their very existence. What I adore most about Mushishi is that the story of each person or village affected by the Mushi gets resolved, whether or not a sweet ending or a bitter ending. Overall, Mushishi is one of those anime you can simply watch from anywhere without needing any particular background information beforehand, as the show's episodic nature is all the more compelling as soon as you see what's going on.
1.
Natsume Yujinjo is one of those episodic, mellow, supernatural fantasy anime that you can kick back and relax to. The story is about Natsume, a guy that can see yokai for as long as he can remember, and kept it all as a secret to himself to not concern his foster parents due to being isolated in his childhood by classmates and even his own relatives. One day, like in all anime, he inherits his grandmother's book of friends, which has a number of yokai spirits contracted to it, which were defeated by Natsume's nan. Hence why Natsume has always been in the sights of yokai, good and bad. However, in Natsume's case, they've always been unfortunate experiences. The show really hit home for me, with each story carrying out a deep message that derived from Natsume's encounters. Each episode is a recollection of bittersweet stories, which ultimately left me with a warm, happy, mellow feeling, encouraging me to binge watch the crap out of Natsume Yujinjo. I hope you all enjoyed the final part, and if you disagree, feel free to debate aggressively in the comments after caressing that like button. And a big thank you to those who have stuck through all the parts prior to this video, and hopefully you found at least one show out of the 25 I've suggested, and feel free to check out the other top playlists I've created here. Farewell.